Information how to use the meal planner document that you'll have sent to you on a weekly basis. Your coach will be sending this document to illustrate the quantity, the quality, the timing, the frequency, portion sizes, nutrient information that your coach requires you to eat in order to achieve the results that you're looking for. You'll notice at the bottom of this document there's numerous tabs. So if I highlight with the arrows here, we've got a number of tabs along the bottom, each with their own use, as it were. The first tab I've got highlighted here, which is the annual macronutrient tracker, will essentially be used by your coach to plan what value or what quantity of food you'll be consuming week by week. This is mine. So as you can see, as of the 25th of November, my week will look as planned within this section here. So essentially, I'm training Monday and Tuesday. Both of those are low carb days. Thursday and Friday are training days as well. However, Friday is a refeed day. Wednesday is identified here as a rest, which will also be moderate carb, equal to Saturday and Sunday. And if we just look across this section here, you'll see that essentially the macronutrients that I have planned to consume myself on those relevant days. You don't need to concern yourselves too much with this section. Your coach might ask you to refer to this tab, or he may not. But don't worry too much if you don't understand what the figures mean just yet. It will make sense eventually. The next tab across the on the document is a meal planner document. So as it's highlighted here, this is illustrated as a low carbohydrate day. The next one is a moderate carbohydrate day, and the third is a refeed day, which typically will be high carbohydrates. These three tabs here are essentially what you will use to create your meal plan. Your coach, as I said, will give you the quantity, timing, frequency, portion sizes, the breakdown of the macronutrients, all the information you need, so that you can put a meal plan together and piece some meals together that you will be able to enjoy, things that will be able to be convenient to cook, and essentially just give you flexibility of being able to eat what you want when you want it within the guidelines that your coach has given you. Okay, so another document, another tab on the document, should say, is the food database. This is just going to be a long list of ingredients which you will be able to use to plan some meals. Essentially, we've got meat, fish, eggs, dairy, nuts, fruit, starches, and supplements, as well as some additional ingredients you can add to your cooking here. I'll come back to this tab in a second, but this is going to be an important area to understand. The final tab on the document is a composition tracker, which is essentially where you're going to record your body composition measurements. And your coach will use those measurements to make any interventions to your meal plan or training program to ensure that you achieve some form of result in relation to your goal, guaranteed. Okay, so if I return back to the moderate carbohydrate day meal plan, what you'll see in front of you at the top of the document are a number of values highlighted in yellow. These values are the recommendations that your coach will give you based on the macronutrient breakdown or macronutrient quantity that your coach wants you to eat per day, or on that day in particular. So mine at the moment here is 150 grams of carbs per day, 130 grams of fat per day, 300 grams of protein per day, 40 grams of fiber, which all equates to 2,970 calories. Below that, we will have the individual meal boxes in which you'll be able to create your meals one by one. So in this instance, we've got meals 1 all the way through to meal 5. You'll notice that in these boxes there are spaces for ingredients, the quantity of that ingredient, the unit in which that ingredient is measured in, the quantity of carbohydrates, fats, proteins, fiber, and calories per ingredient, and all that will be quantified or totaled up in this section here per meal. You'll notice that above that there's a recommended section. Your coach will give you these values to help give you guidelines based on what you should be eating in that meal, with regards to the carbs, fats and proteins and fibre. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll see another box which will essentially illustrate what you have planned. So obviously at the moment we haven't got any meals or ingredients prepared in this meal plan, so everything at the moment is set at 0. But once we start inputting some meals or ingredients, that'll start to change, and you'll be able to look at what values of macronutrients and calories you've planned for that day in particular. So in terms of getting the meals done, what I'm going to do now is just prepare one meal on this video and essentially teach you how to do it. As you can see, meal 1 on my moderate carb day involves me eating approximately 30 grams of carbs, 26 grams of fat, 60 grams of protein and 8 grams of fibre, all of which equates to 594 calories. So what I'm going to do is go to the food database tab at the bottom here, and I'm going to scroll to the very bottom. Now what I can do is enter my meal target. So if I remember rightly, the meal target was 30 grams of carbs, 26 grams of fat, 60 grams of protein, 8 grams of fibre. So if I return back to the moderate carb and just double check, so that's 30, 26, 60 and 8. 30, 26, 60 and 8. That's great. Okay, so back onto the food database. I know that what I need to do now is put some form of ingredients together to make a meal that will be enjoyable, convenient to make, and above all meet these targets here. So we've got a distribution of all macronutrients. So what I'm going to do is prepare a meal probably in the morning that involves some form of oats. So what I'm going to do now, looking at the fact that I need 30 grams of carbohydrates, I'm going to scroll up and find some porridge oats, which is here. For now I'm just going to put in 30 grams of organic porridge oats, and now I'm going to consider what will go with those. So if I scroll further up to the dairy section, I can put in some Channel Islands milk, so let's go for 200 millilitres. From there, maybe put in a banana, which off the top of my head is roughly about 80 grams, which is good. For a fat source, I'm going to consider putting some coconut oil in there. So let's just go for 15 grams. And finally, as a protein source, we'll go with a whey protein. So we'll enter 60 grams in there. So if I now scroll to the bottom, I can have a look at what that has done for me. So in terms of carbohydrates, as you can see, I'm pretty high. So I need 30 grams, and currently I'm at 49. Fats, I'm not too far off, I'm quite close, I'm just about 2.6 grams over. Protein, I'm fairly close, and fibre, I'm under. So those considerations now will allow me to make some adjustments to those ingredients I've just put together. So the first thing I need to do is reduce my carbohydrate intake, and the first place I'm going to do that is perhaps by reducing the quantity of the banana. So let's put in 40 grams for that, and let's put the oats down to 25, and we'll review that at the bottom and see where that leaves us. Okay, so we're still a touch high. I'll scroll back to the top, remove some more of the banana and review. 32. Okay, so not too far off on that one. With regards to the fat, I need to come down a touch. We need to reduce that roughly by about 2 grams. So if I return to the coconut oil, I'll type in 12 grams instead of 15. And as we can see, we're now a little bit closer toward the fat requirement. Okay, protein, we are a little bit under, so I can return to the whey, type in 65 grams instead of 60, and that will take us a little bit closer still. Now in terms of fibre, if you're consuming a low carbohydrate or a reduced carbohydrate diet, chances are fibre is going to be difficult to consume. So one supplement I have put on here which will be very useful for you to use is the whole psyllium husks. So in this instance I need another 5 or 6 grams. So I'm going to put in 10 grams in here and see what that does for us. Okay, so that's pretty close. I might reduce that by a touch, but it's 8 grams instead, and there we are, a little bit closer. Okay, so generally the values aren't perfect, they're not exact, but we can make them up somewhere else in the meal. So long as we're roughly following this target that your coach has given you, then you won't go too far wrong. What we need to do now is post these ingredients onto the day or the meal plan for this day, and it's just a simple case of copy and paste. So what I'm going to do now is scroll to the very top and start to select the ingredients individually. So we've got the 200 milliliters of milk. I'll scroll further down, I can also select the porridge oats. On Apple laptops, if you keep hold of the command button, you can select these all at the same time. I believe on Windows laptops, if you hold down the control key, it does the same thing. So now I'm highlighting the banana, the 12 grams of coconut oil, 8 grams of the psyllium husks, and the whey protein. Okay, so again, I'm going to hit Command C or Control C on a Windows laptop. That'll copy. Let's return back to the moderate carbohydrate day. I'm going to post these ingredients into the top left-hand corner of the ingredients section. Copy and paste, and there you have it. There is the meal planned. So as you can see now, all those ingredients have posted. We have all the values for the carbohydrates for each individual ingredient, the fats, the proteins, the fibre, and the calories. We can now review that based on what the original recommendations were. So as you can see, where we were 30, 26, 60, and 8 recommended, we're not too far off along those along the actual planned values, which all in all, as you can see, is only 16, 17 calories above recommended anyway, which is good. What I can do now is I can enter the time of that meal just for my own reference. So let's say I have this meal at 7 o'clock in the morning. That's just a note for myself. One other thing that you can do is also add notes in here. So you can add in herbs and spices that you want to put in those meals. So with this one I could put in cinnamon and nutmeg, for example. You know, so you could do something like that. That notes box is also a section in which I can provide you with advice. So when you send me this document on a weekly basis for me to review, I can add notes to these boxes and give you advice on each individual meal specifically. Okay, so it's easy as that. There's one meal prepared and ready to go. If your coach has asked you to eat all 5 meals, if you have recommendations or recommended quantities for meals 1 through to meal 5, then all you need to do is repeat the process you did for meal 1, of course using different foods, and all of those quantities will total at the bottom here, in highlighted in yellow. What you will see is this section here, above or below target. As you start to fill in the ingredients for each meal, what will happen is that automatically these values will quantify, and it will identify to you whether you're above or below your daily target. Now, of course, I've only completed 1 meal on this day in particular, so I'm well out at the moment. But if I return to one that I've made earlier, as you can see, I've filled in meal 1 there. I've filled in meal 2, all with the times. My planned values are fairly close, if not bang on, to what I need for those individual meal recommendations, right the way through to meal number 5. Okay, so here's the planned carbohydrates, fats, proteins, fibre, and calories that I have set out for myself on this day in particular. You'll notice that with the carbohydrates, I'm only 3.6 grams over. With this one on fats, I'm 0.95 grams under. Protein, I'm under by 0.4 gram. Fibre, I'm over by 0.04. And calories, I'm just over by 4. So generally, I'm extremely close to my recommendations there, and I'm pretty confident that I couldn't really get any closer with the meals in particular. So as you can see, just to recap, the recommended daily macronutrient intake that your coach will give you for that given day will be highlighted in yellow up here. As you copy and paste ingredients with the quantity into each meal, they will total up in this section here. The intention is for you to get your planned macronutrient quantities as close to the recommended as possible. Once you've done it from meal 1 through till meal 5, that will also total up at the bottom, and your intention is to have the above or below target values as close to 0 as possible. Okay, so that's essentially it. Like I said, you'll have a low carb day, a moderate carb day, and potentially a refeed or a high carb day, in which your coach will ask you to do. Obviously, this information will be given to you. It'll be detailed in email or spoken to in person if you're doing private coaching with us. Finally, the tab at the very end is the composition tracker. Now, as I said earlier, this is where you'll record your measurements. Typically, you'll be asked to do this on a weekly basis. All you have to do in here is enter the date of which you're taking your measurements. So say, for example, I'm doing it today. I just put the 25th of November 13. I'll enter my weight, my chest circumference measurement, waist, hips, my butt, my left thigh, right thigh measurement, and then the skin fold measurements in here. You will enter yes or no in this box depending on whether you've stuck to your plan 100%. Of course, I expect this to be yes every single week. And you'll also tick this box to illustrate the fact that you've sent your progress pictures to your coach also. As I said, once you've saved this document, you'll be asked to send this to your coach every single week, potentially once a week, maybe more, depending on your goal and depending on the stage at which your training and meal plan is at. But your coach will look at the food that you've planned and also look at how your body is adapting to that food, and then we'll use that information to make any interventions, make any changes to ensure that you achieve and get results week in, week out. Going back to the food database, the majority of the foods that are on this are great foods. They're all single ingredient foods, so they're all very, very good. Of course, if I can provide you with some discount codes for the meat and supplements, so please do ask if I forget to send those to you. If there are any foods that aren't on here, then please do let me know. It's not too difficult for me to add some foods on here so you can incorporate more variety to your training or meal plan, should I say. But that being said, I will only add single ingredient foods to these lists. I'm not going to be adding anything such as cereal and Snickers and things like that to it. Kind of defeats the object. So do let me know. Of course, if you've got any specific questions on this, get in touch and ask me. I can quite easily make a video, an instruction video on how to use the meal planner specifically for you. So if you do have any issues, don't just sit there and let time go by. It's really important that you use this document as soon as you possibly can. The quicker you start getting your head around this document, the quicker you'll start getting results. So do ask questions if you become unstuck.